Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Imagine a time long ago, over 2,000 years past. The world was very different. A great power ruled, the Roman Empire. It was mighty and strong, with armies that went everywhere and smart leaders. But a small group of 12 men, not famous or powerful, changed history forever. Many were simple fishermen from small villages, spending days on the Sea of Galilee. One man, Matthew, collected taxes for the Romans, making him unpopular. These 12 men, with no special schooling or high status, began a movement that grew and spread. It changed the world's beliefs and ways of life for 2,000 years, reaching even our time. Their actions reshaped the future in ways no one could have predicted. How did such ordinary men achieve this? Their true power did not come from social standing, wealth, or personal skills. It came from being sent. In Old Greek, apostolos means a person sent out with a special message or task. These 12 men were chosen for a very important mission. They were messengers carrying a new idea, a message that would travel across lands and through generations. Yet this chosen group of 12 was never truly stable. It faced many challenges from within. A dark shadow hinted at deep betrayal. One member, Judas, would turn against their leader. Later, after key events, another man would rise. He would become a 13th member, an apostle who never met the leader during his life, but would preach his message more widely.
This new figure would, in many ways, overshadow some of the original 12, changing their story forever. Their journey was not easy or safe. It was full of dangers and great difficulties. Many faced terrible endings, far from home. By the end of this story, you will understand their hard lives and fates. You will learn why only one of these 12 remarkable men is believed to have died a natural death, without violence for his beliefs. But before they became the heroes we know today, they had to be called. They had to make a choice. Their very first invitation asked for a great sacrifice. It asked them to leave behind everything they knew, their jobs, families, and homes. This was a choice most people today would surely refuse. How it started. Jesus began his work by calling men to follow him. He first saw two brothers, Simon, also known as Peter, and Andrew. They were skilled fishermen, casting their nets into the sea to catch fish. Jesus spoke simply to them, saying, "Follow me." And in that moment, without any hesitation, they left their nets, their boats, and their daily work behind. They immediately went with him. This quick decision might seem strange. Why did they leave everything so instantly? Perhaps it was a special divine power that moved them. Or maybe, as some stories hint, they had heard about Jesus before this day. Andrew, for example, had been a follower of John the Baptist, who had already spoken about Jesus. So their readiness might have been building up. Very soon after,
Jesus found two more brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. They were also fishermen, and they were in a boat with their father, carefully mending their fishing nets. Jesus called out to them, and just like Peter and Andrew, they did not delay. They left their father and the boat instantly to follow Jesus. This act of leaving their father behind was a powerful sign. It suggested that following Jesus meant putting him before even family ties, a sacrifice many people today would find very difficult. Later, Jesus saw a tax collector named Matthew, also known as Levi. Matthew sat at his tax booth, collecting money for the powerful Roman government. In Jewish society, tax collectors were very unpopular. People saw them as bad and unfair, like villains, because they often took more money than needed. Yet Jesus simply told Matthew, "Follow me." Matthew stood up, left his money behind, and joined Jesus. He then invited Jesus to a large meal at his home, where many other tax collectors and people considered sinners were present. When some religious leaders saw this, they asked Jesus' followers, "Why does your teacher eat with such bad people?" Jesus heard their question and gave a famous reply. "It is not healthy people who need a doctor, but sick people. I have not come to call those who believe they are good, but to call sinners to change their ways." Once he had chosen these men, Jesus gave them their first major task. He sent them out in pairs to visit towns. Their main job was to heal sick people and to cast out evil spirits. But they received very specific and strange instructions for their journey. Jesus commanded them to take nothing with them. This meant no food, no money, no travel bag, and only the clothes they wore. They could only carry a staff and wear sandals. He also told them that if any town refused to welcome them or listen to their message, they should shake the dust off their feet as they left. This was a clear sign of judgment and warning. The men had bravely accepted their call and started this new way of life. However, they did not yet fully understand the true purpose of Jesus' mission. This deep misunderstanding would eventually lead to great problems and would only be truly resolved after a painful tragedy occurred. 3. Who were they? After being called to follow Jesus, these 12 men started new lives. But who exactly were they? Finding all their names is not as simple as it might seem. If you look at the different Bible books, called the Gospels, you will find small differences. For instance, in Matthew and Mark, one apostle is called Thaddeus. But in Luke, this same person is named Judas, son of James. Most people believe these refer to the same man, showing early confusion about their names. Despite these small naming differences, some important patterns are always there.
Simon, whom Jesus named Peter, is always the first name on every list. This tells us he was seen as the leader. Judas Iscariot, who later betrayed Jesus, is consistently placed last. This order reveals a hidden structure of importance. The lists also commonly divide the 12 into 3 smaller groups of 4. Each group is always led by the same apostle, such as Peter for the first group, Philip for the second, and James, son of Alphaeus, for the third. While names within these groups sometimes changed order, the leader of each group stayed fixed. The Bible also introduces another interesting question. Were the 12 the only important followers? The Gospel of Luke mentions 70 disciples, sometimes called 70 apostles. Jesus also sent this larger group out to preach. This makes us wonder if the 12 were the most important, or simply the most famous among many who believed. Among the famous 12, there were two pairs of brothers. Simon Peter and Andrew were brothers. James and John were also brothers. These family connections meant they had strong bonds. But close family ties could also bring challenges, especially concerning leadership. These relationships would become more complex later. Even within this chosen group, Jesus formed an even smaller, exclusive circle. There were times when Jesus would take only 3 of them, Peter, James, and John, to witness something special or share a private moment.
He allowed them to see and hear things the other 9 apostles did not. This inner circle meant important secrets were shared with only a few, and the other 9 might have felt left out. 4. The 3 friends. Jesus had 12 followers, but 3 men were especially close to him. These 3 were Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and John, James's brother. They formed an inner circle, sometimes called the triumvirate. Jesus chose them to be with him during some of his most important and mysterious moments. For example, only these 3 disciples were allowed to witness the Transfiguration. This was a powerful event where Jesus' appearance changed, shining brightly with divine light. The other 9 disciples were not there to see this wonder. They were also the only ones present when Jesus performed another amazing act. He raised a young girl, Jairus' daughter, back to life. These events show that Peter, James, and John had a unique view of Jesus' power and identity. What special things did they see or hear that the other disciples did not know? These exclusive experiences might have caused questions or even some feelings of jealousy among the rest of the group. Many people wonder if this favoritism created division. These 3 friends were important figures who would later be known as pillars of the church. Their close bond was also seen in other tasks. Jesus sent Peter and John together to prepare for the important Passover meal, also known as the Last Supper.
Later, these 2 were also sent to Samaria by the other apostles to help new believers. However, their special status did not make them perfect. We see this clearly during the agony in the garden. This was a very difficult time for Jesus before his arrest. He asked Peter, James, and John to stay awake and pray with him. But even these close friends could not do it. They fell asleep while Jesus was in great distress. This moment shows their human weakness, even with their elevated position. Being part of this inner circle did not save them from fear. In fact, one of the 3, Peter, who was often the first to speak and seemed the strongest, would later deny knowing Jesus 3 times. This act of denial came from fear, even after he had seen such amazing things and spent so much time with Jesus. It highlights how even the most dedicated followers could struggle when facing danger. 5. The one who left. Judas Iscariot was a key member of Jesus' inner circle, one of the original 12 chosen men. He even held the important role of treasurer, looking after the group's money. He walked side by side with Jesus, heard all his teachings, and witnessed many incredible miracles. He saw Jesus heal the sick, cast out evil spirits, and even raise people from the dead. Despite experiencing such powerful divine acts, Judas made the shocking choice to betray Jesus. Why he did this remains a profound mystery.
It was not simply greed, even though he accepted 30 pieces of silver for his act. How could someone who had seen so much light choose such a dark path? This question has puzzled followers for centuries. After guiding those who arrested Jesus, Judas was filled with overwhelming regret and guilt. The Bible offers two distinct, yet both very dark, accounts of his death. In the Gospel of Matthew, the story says that Judas, consumed by his terrible actions, threw the silver coins, the payment for his betrayal, back into the temple. He then left the scene and in his despair went and hanged himself. This account paints a picture of a man driven to a lonely and desperate end, unable to live with the weight of his choice. However, the book of Acts provides a different, equally gruesome narrative of Judas's end. It states that Judas used the money from his betrayal to purchase a plot of land. While in this very field, a terrible event occurred. He fell head first. His body violently burst open in the middle, and all his internal organs spilled out onto the ground. Because of this shocking incident and the blood money involved, this land became known as the Field of Blood, or Akeldama. The vivid and horrifying details of this death show the ultimate physical consequences of his betrayal, marking a sharp and visceral turn from the earlier spiritual focus. With Judas gone, the special group of Jesus' closest followers was no longer whole. They were now reduced to the 11. This sudden reduction left them feeling deeply broken and incomplete. The number 12 was not just a count. It held a significant meaning, symbolizing a new foundation, like the 12 tribes of Israel. The absence of one member created a void. The remaining 11 apostles felt a heavy weight, understanding that their mission, their very identity, was now flawed. They recalled ancient writings from the Psalms that seemed to speak directly to their situation, mentioning a desolate dwelling and the need for another to take a vacated office. This implied that their mission, to truly represent Jesus' vision, could not continue without restoring their full number, making their future uncertain. 6. Finding a new man. After Judas Iscariot left the group, there were only 11 apostles remaining. They felt incomplete. Peter spoke to the others. He reminded them that their group was meant to be 12, just as it was before. He said that a new man must join them to take Judas's place. But this was not just any person. The new apostle needed to be someone special. He had to be a man who had been with Jesus and the other disciples from the very beginning. This meant from the time John the Baptist first spoke about Jesus, all the way until Jesus went up to heaven. Most importantly, this new man needed to be a witness to Jesus' return to life after death.
The apostles put forward two men who met these requirements: Joseph, who was called Barsabbas and also known as Justus, and Matthias. Now, they had to choose one of them. For such a big and important decision, they used a surprising method. They decided to pick the new apostle by casting lots. This was like a form of ancient gambling or drawing straws. They prayed, asking God to show them which man he had chosen. Then they cast their lots. This method of choosing seems strange to us today. Why would they leave such a huge decision to chance? For them, it was a way to let God's will be known, trusting that the outcome of the lots would reveal his choice. The lot fell on Matthias. So Matthias became the 12th apostle, and the group was whole again. However, after this event, Matthias is not mentioned much in the stories. He seems to disappear from the main writings. This makes us wonder if choosing him by lots was the right choice in the long term, or if the apostles had moved too fast. This moment when the apostles chose Matthias also sets the stage for something big. Soon, God would choose another apostle, but in a very different way. This next apostle would not be chosen by men voting or casting lots. He would be chosen directly by God. The 12 apostles were now complete once more. But far away, a man named Saul was traveling on the road to Damascus. He was about to have a powerful experience that would change his life forever. This man would soon claim to have more authority than all of the original 12 apostles combined. 7. The last apostle. Paul, originally named Saul, was a man who hunted Jesus' followers. He believed he was doing God's will by persecuting Christians. But then, a powerful event changed his life completely. On his way to Damascus, a bright light shone, and he heard Jesus' voice. This moment transformed him. Saul became Paul, a dedicated follower of Jesus. This was a shocking twist. Paul had never met Jesus during his earthly ministry. He was not one of the original 12 men chosen by Jesus. So, how could Paul truly call himself an apostle? Chapter 6 explained that an apostle needed to be with Jesus from John's baptism until Jesus went to heaven. Paul did not fit these criteria. Still, he strongly claimed his role as an apostle. He said his call came directly from the resurrected Jesus through a personal vision. This new idea of apostleship caused tension among the first disciples. Peter and James, important leaders in Jerusalem, had to decide about Paul's mission. Paul worked mainly with Gentiles, people who were not Jewish. The first apostles had focused more on Jewish communities. After discussions, Peter, James, and John agreed that Paul should take the message to the Gentiles. This opened a new path for Jesus' teachings. Paul often had to defend his authority as an apostle. some questioned him because he was not part of the initial group.
He asked, "Am I not an apostle?" He even spoke of super apostles, challenging those who thought they were superior. Paul admitted feeling inferior because he had persecuted Christians, but he firmly stated he was just as capable as any super apostle in understanding and sharing Jesus' message. He proved his calling through tireless work and immense suffering for Jesus, facing many dangers. Paul's unique experience changed the very meaning of apostle forever. It was no longer only about being one of the 12 direct witnesses to Jesus' life. It became about being chosen and sent by Jesus himself. This broader definition helped the new faith spread quickly and widely, moving beyond its Jewish beginnings to many different nations. As Paul's fame grew across the Roman Empire, the original 12 apostles began to scatter from Jerusalem. They embarked on their own missions to various parts of the world, each facing difficult and often violent ends, spreading the message until their last breath. 8. The end of the story. After Jesus left them, the 12 apostles did not stay in one place. They went out to many different countries to share their message. This was a hard journey, full of dangers and challenges. Most of them faced a violent end for their strong beliefs, dying as martyrs. For a long time, it was widely believed that only one of the original 12, John, lived a full life and died peacefully of old age. This special event happened in a city called Ephesus many years after his friends had passed. This answers the question we asked in the first chapter. John was the one who did not die a violent death, surviving all the others. It is truly surprising to think about where the remains of these simple men are believed to be today. Their bones are found in many places, often very far from their humble homes in Galilee. Peter, who started as a simple fisherman, has his remains in Rome, a powerful and important city, where his skull is kept in a great church. Andrew, his brother, and also a fisherman, is buried far away in Patras, Greece. James, the son of Zebedee, found his final resting place in Santiago de Compostela, Spain, a famous pilgrimage site. Thomas traveled vast distances, and his bones are said to be in Chennai, India, or in Ortona, Italy. Matthew, who was once a despised tax collector, is buried in Salerno, Italy. Matthias, the man chosen to replace Judas Iscariot, is in Trier, Germany. Jude Thaddeus's bones are believed to be in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, alongside those of Simon the Zealot. Even Paul, who became an apostle later, has his relics honored in Rome. These men started their work near a small lake in Israel, but their life paths led them across continents, thousands of miles from where they began. Today, huge and beautiful churches stand over the places where these apostles are buried or where they are believed to have taught. These grand and impressive buildings, like the great cathedrals in Rome or the Basilica in India, show how important their message became.
It is a big contrast from their humble beginnings as uneducated fishermen and tax collectors who had little power. From a small group of often scared and confused men, they became the strong foundation of a worldwide faith. Their courage and unwavering belief helped to create a global religion that has lasted for 2,000 years. Their stories teach about strong faith, brave travel, and great sacrifice. Their teachings and their brave examples still guide many people today. These 12 men, plus Paul, were ordinary people who changed the world forever. If you could ask one of the apostles a question, who would it be, and what would you ask?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world.